spray a few spritzes of water onto the chocolate. Then I place the cake board on top and I trim away the excess chocolate. Next, I sculpt the edges of the sole to create grooves in the tread of the shoe. Now that the tread pattern is sculpted, I'm going to set the sole aside to firm up and get back to room temperature. I'm using this to cut out 3 sole-shaped cake layers. I'm spreading some blueberry buttercream directly on the cake board, followed by a layer of lemon cake. Now it's time to carve the cake in the shape of the sneaker. Once the toe is to my liking, I round out the heel and I shape that a bit. I want to create the illusion that the sneaker is hollow. So to do that, I just cut a hole a couple inches deep in the top, and that'll do the trick. Now that the cake is carved, I cover the entire thing in a thin layer of buttercream. It's time to cover the cake in modeling chocolate. There is a very subtle round texture on the sole of the real sneaker. So to create this effect, I just wrap a straw in plastic wrap and then I press lightly onto the chocolate. I started with pink because it's the lighter of the 2 colors, and I typically start with the lighter color when I airbrush. I made sure to airbrush the soles of the shoe cake before covering the rest of the cake. This shoe is going to be built up in layers of modeling chocolate, so I'm rolling out the modeling chocolate pretty darn thin so it doesn't bulk the cake up too much and start to make the shoe look like it's maybe too wide or too puffy. I just smooth out the chocolate, work it around the cake, and then I trim away the excess chocolate with a blade. And with a sculpting tool, I clean up where the top of the shoe and the sole meet. To create this effect of the small mesh texture, I used a wheel punch tool. Next, I roll out more modeling chocolate and I press a clean texture mat onto it. So it's gonna give this super subtle fabric texture, like I see on the real shoe. And to create a larger mesh pattern, I cut a straw down slightly, I bent it into a small pointed oval shape, and then I taped it closed. Then I place this layer on top of the sneaker cake, and I match it up so that the larger mesh is placed over top of that smaller mesh area, the area that I punched with those super tiny holes with that fun wheel punching tool. And I love this effect. Next, I'm adding a chunk of modeling chocolate to shape the sneaker a bit. And then I cover the remaining cake in a thin layer of modeling chocolate to make it look more finished. Now that the cake is covered front and back, I start working on more of the details. So I'm adding marks with the sculpting tools, the straws, and that little wheel punch tool that I love so much. So for the heel loop, I'm rolling out some blue modeling chocolate and I'm adding a line texture with a texture mat. Then I very carefully attach it to the back of the cake. This is where the real shoe comes in. So I want to make sure that I get this logo just right. So I'm using a food-safe silicone mold to recreate it. While soft, I press the silicone putty onto the actual shoe, then I peel it away, and look how beautiful and easy that was. Next, I roll out pink modeling chocolate and I brush cornstarch directly onto the mold and onto the chocolate. And then all I have to do is press that mold onto the pink chocolate, peel it away, and I have the perfect edible logo. The last thing I do is I clean up the edges a bit with a blade and I shape it. I really want my pink to pop like the pink on the real shoe. So to brighten it up a bit, I hand painted bright pink onto the chocolate. Now I'm adding a clean layer of white chocolate on the heel, and then comes the final layer of blue to that squishy heel of the shoe. For the signature line that comes on the side of the Adidas shoes, I rolled out an extremely thin layer of modeling chocolate and I placed the strips on evenly. Let's lace these sneakers. So using an extruder, I extruded modeling chocolate to the size and length of the real shoelace. And then I also extruded some thin pink chocolate for the loops. To start, I'm placing the chocolate laces on the bottom of the shoe, and then I'm adding that pink loop accent. Then I place the laces onto the cake and I add pink loops at every turn. And there you have it, an Adidas shoe cake. This is an oddly satisfying sneaker, and this is an oddly satisfying cake.